I am Chumbo Daniel, missionary number 1 to the nation of Kenya, based in Nairobi. We got to Kenya in the year 1994, December. Now, talking about Brother Zach, it is all a matter of God's planning. Because though I was in Cameroon, I did not know him in Cameroon. I went to do my university studies in Nigeria, in the University of Ilorin in Nigeria. When I'd finished my degree course, I had to come back to Cameroon. But there was a camp for Nigerian students called the NYS, the National Youth Service Corps, for those Nigerian students that were on scholarship by the government. I was not on Nigerian government scholarship. I paid my fee, so I was not part of it. But I went to visit one of the camps because there was a brother in the Lord there in that camp. So when I got to the camp and I told him I was about to travel to Cameroon, a certain sister I did not know in the Lord came and said, "Oh, do you know us? Do you know Brother Zach?" I told her I don't know him. I've heard about that name, but I don't know him. She said, "I have some books I would like you to take to Brother Zach." I said, "Okay, since I'm going to Cameroon, I'll take the books." I carried the books. When I reached Cameroon, I was in Southwest Province. I didn't feel like coming to Yaoundé, so I handed the books to a student of the University of Nairobi who came and gave the books. After some time, I got to Yaoundé in search of a job because I was now looking for a job. And I didn't get a job immediately. So I started working in a medical laboratory just opposite the CHU. I was staying in the home of my cousin who was lecturing the medical school in Yaoundé. He was a staunch Catholic, or he is a staunch Catholic, very firm. Even his mother was such a Catholic, staunch, putting everything into Catholicism. So when I came to their home, I was living with him. I loved to pray. I always wanted to read my Bible and pray. So I would tell the children, "Let us pray. Let us read the Bible." So until one day, one of the children asked me, "Why are you always telling us to pray? Are you a born again?" I asked him, "What do you mean by born again?" She told me, "There are some people in this city of Yaoundé who say they are born again." I told them, "Okay, I would like to see those people." So one day, my cousin himself took me. We went to, there was a place called Onanamable where the church was meeting. We got there to a meeting in the evening. We sat down. The man spoke there in front. It's at the end of the meeting that I knew it was Brother Zach. So when he had finished speaking, and I came back home. When I went back home with my cousin, I sat down and told him, "Look, I listened to that man, and I feel those are the kind of people I belong to." He was surprised because I used to go to the Presbyterian church. I was in the Presbyterian church before. But when I listened to him, there was something that touched me because I had gotten saved while in the Presbyterian church in Buea. Then I went to university. But I always had too many questions as I read my Bible and confronted the pastor of the church. But in the university, there was no problem because there were speakers coming from all around to teach. But now when I was finishing my course, I actually prayed. I said, "Lord, I'm going back to Cameroon, but I do not want to continue the Presbyterian church. Where do I go?" So incidentally, that's how it worked. This sister gave me the books. I gave the books to some other person, but my cousin again led me to where Brother Zach was meeting. And when I told my cousin, the next Sunday, I got to the meeting place. Then they directed me to Sister Emilia's house. Sister Emilia was having a meeting there with another sister from Nigeria. So that's where I started my meetings. So I came to start participating in the meetings and trying to understand this man called Zach Fomo. Something which struck me was amazing, because during one of the meetings with Sister Emilia's house, they were breaking bread. I went to break bread and take the Holy Communion. She asked me, "Are you born again?" I said, "Yes, I'm born again. I knew I'm born again." And I gave the time I got born again, I saved. They said, "But are you baptized in water?" I said, "No, but I'm born again. And I don't need to be baptized in water because I was already baptized in the Presbyterian church." She said, "No, they refused me from breaking bread." The next Sunday I came, I still wanted to break. So I think they went and told Brother Zach, because Brother Zach was not coming to that fellowship. That was not where he was worshiping. So he called them and called me and told them, "No, leave him. Let him break. Let him break bread." And that's how I started breaking bread. 1 month after that, I was so convicted of my need to be baptized in water that I had literally to cry. It was on 26th of December. There had been a week-long crusade in the center, and just the night we were to have a night prayer on the 26th of December. But the whole week I had been so convicted of my need to be baptized in water, because what I always thought was, how can somebody be baptized a second time? Because though I was saved, I still believed that what we did in the Presbyterian church as baptism was correct. So, but Brother Zach just told them to allow me break bread. But that week I was so convicted. As I was reading my Bible, I read Mark chapter 16, he who believes and is baptized. Then I started reasoning, so okay, you have to believe first, then you get baptized. So even if what they did to me was baptism, then I had not yet believed, so it's now. So when I met Brother Zach that evening at the center, we were just about to start the all-night prayer meeting, I told him, "Brother, I would like to get baptized in water." He smiled. Then he told me, since it was a Saturday evening, he said, "Okay, tomorrow," because the next day was Sunday. Sundays we used to have a baptismal pool in the church where they used to clean and fill water there every Sunday and baptize people. He said, "No, tomorrow is baptism. You can be baptized tomorrow." Immediately he said that, I was amazed that I started crying. I fell down. I said, "No, I must be baptized." There was some water standing in that pool. He just called Brother John Baffo to baptize me, and that's how I was baptized that night. And I felt great relief. In fact, I started coming close to Brother Zach because I wanted to know this man. Why did I come to the meeting and listen to him only once? I had not even talked to him about the books, which I was the one who had sent them to him. It's after that I went to look for him, and I told him, "Brother Zach, did you receive some books from Nigeria?" I'm the one who brought those books. Then that's how we got close. He invited me to his home. At that time they were living in Kondongo or somewhere. Yeah, in Kondongo. We had a meal, and the next thing that touched me concerning Brother Zach was the following year, he taught about discipleship. I'd never heard about discipleship. Immediately finished teaching, I stood up. I walked to the front. I went to the podium and I told him, "Brother Zach, I would like you to make me into a disciple of Jesus." He said, "He's very busy. There are other people in the church, Rambafo and the rest. You can meet one of them." I said, "No, Brother Zach, I would like you to be my disciple maker." He said, "Okay, if you want me to disciple you, then you must be ready to run after me." I told him, "Yes, I will run after you. I will run." And I made it virtually every day, I would time the time he was to leave his office in the university. I just stand outside and I jump to the car with him. And we would go around. Wherever he was going to his house, I followed, just sharing one thing or the other. And eventually, when I knew where he was having his retreat in Colbison, in Sister Esther Conan's house, I knew that he went there on Fridays, and Monday mornings around 3 in the morning he would leave. By 3 in the morning, I'm in Colbison. But I don't disturb, I just stay outside the door until when he's about to leave. Then I meet him, then he would take me in the car, we start talking, conversing, and I shared all that I needed. And I was just impressed by Brother Zach. I was just impressed because each time I come around him, there was always something to learn. So I always had my notebook every time I went to any place to meet Brother Zach, because there will always be something that you need to note down. And another thing that he did, he taught about restitution, something I'd never heard such teachings. To restitute to people you have hurt, even things that you have stolen. Immediately finished teaching on that, I was amazed because something struck me in my heart. That I had a book I'd stolen from the university. Because when I left high school from Castim Bambili, I registered in the University of Yaoundé. I wanted to do a professional course, but there was no opportunity, so I was asked to do physics chemistry. But I did not cherish it. But I registered there because they used to give allowances. They were giving allowances to students. So I registered so as to get my allowance. But during that period, there was a tendency among students to say that you enter the library and you can go out with something without the librarian taking note. So I said I would also do the same thing. So I went and collected a book from the shelf and I succeeded to go out. It was normal for students. But it's only that night, that was already 8 years after Brother Zach taught about restitution. The thing struck me. So I remembered the book 8 years after. To cut it short, I finally went to my parents' home in Bamenda and I discovered the book was there. And I took it back. I came to the University of Yaoundé. I went to the library. They told me the librarian was in the bookshop. I went there, I met him and I presented the book. I told him, sir, I stole this book from the bookshop. I thought it was a good thing in those days, but I've given my life to Jesus and I now know that it's bad. So I've come to return it. The man took the book. He actually said, you are forgiven. And immediately said that I was so relieved. So those things marked me. And since Brother Zach had decided to disciple me, I kept running after him, following him everywhere. Even sometimes I would go to his house very early, around 5 in the morning, just to wait for the moment they were to start their family devotion with his family. Then I would knock at the gate, or ring the bell, they would open, I also enter and sit there. I just got infatuated. I loved to be around Brother Zach. Because eventually I got a job in the Ministry of Mines and Power, so I was just staying very close to Meleng. So I was always, and he was living at Obili. So I used to go there just to spend time, and eventually they moved to Tugebe. I was also not married, so I had a lot of time to myself. I could run after him, go to places, and I learned quite a lot. Brother Zach was not just anybody. He was a man who knew God. And he knew how, he understood people. He was not the type of, let me say, there are some people who are legalists. They stress on the law and they forget the people. If Brother Zach, most likely, if Brother Zach had followed the pattern, Sister Amelia and the others had followed the way they wanted me not to break bread, maybe I would have loved the church. But I don't know why he actually said I should break the bread when I had not even been baptized in water. So I so much appreciated him, because each time I sat around him, I always had something to learn. Each time I sat around him, I had something to learn. And then eventually in 1986, when Brother came after he was summoned by the Full Gospel Mission to tell him about for him to stop preaching in the church because the officers in government were not happy and so on. And when he came and to announce it and said, he just said he and his family were leaving, but he encouraged the brethren that we should remain in the full gospel. Immediately left. Some of us thought, no, that's not correct. We followed. And that's how we started having a meeting in his bedroom. We started the meeting, the house church in his bedroom, and it continued that way. A short while, I left and went to Holland to do my further studies. Then I came back. We were continuing to meet now in the sitting room, a big fellowship. And when there were many people, the assembly broke, and part of it started meeting in my own home at Carrefour BMC, I think, or somewhere there. And then at last, Brother called me one day and said he wants me to choose between tracts ministry and the evangelistic book ministry, and take responsibility. I told him, okay. It was actually in Colby Song. So he told me to go and pray about it. After some time, I think I even had a 3-day fast. Then I went and told him I would like to take the tracts ministry. So he handed it to me. Before then, Brother Theodore was handling the tracts and many other things, so that one was given to me to carry. So I formed a team, and we're now in charge of the tracts. We actually carved a name which called it Evatramin, which Evangelistic Tracts Ministry. So we did that until 1992. 1992, yeah, when I was getting, I was being ordained as an elder in the church in Yaoundé. The message that came forth was, there was a line in it which said that you were in this city only for a moment. My goal for you is for another city. So I did not quite understand. I met Brother Zach. I said, I don't understand this message. You know, my desire is to stay around you and work with the tracts, but when it's talking about another city, in another nation, I don't quite understand. He himself said, well, he doesn't understand. It's God who has spoken. So I kept meditating on it. I was an elder. I was now married, because I got married in 1991. And because before then, they had wanted me to be an elder in the church. Brother John Bafo and the rest came. Brother Manuel encouraged me to be an elder. I told him, no, I don't want to be an elder. I want just to be working around Brother Zach. Then when they pressed on me so much, I took the excuse. I gave them an excuse. I think an elder should be married. I'm not yet married, so I don't think I should be an elder. So that gave me an excuse. But when I got married, I was now introduced into bishopric of the church in Yaoundé. So when I started running the tract ministry, I became very close to Brother Zach, because there were letters were being written to him, because when the tracts went out, his name was the one behind the tract. They would write back to him. So there were thousands of letters coming in from people who had read the tracts. So Brother Zach told me to start replying to those letters. So when I replied to a set of letters, I carried to go and give him to read, to see, and approve before we posted them. So that's how then our relationship became closer and closer. And he would correct me, he correct some of the letters, and tell me how to handle them, to pray each time, and then before answering replying to the letters. And so we got, that bonded us. That bonded us. Then in 1993, because we had become so close that Brazak it's just a matter of him just writing a small note, can just write and say, done, do this, in a meeting. So 1993, it was a matter of sending out missionaries. And we had to send the BCs to DRC. Brazak just wrote a note, Dan, I love you. Please, can you take the organization to plan for the send-off of these missionaries? I was so amazed that with all the elders in the church, all the senior men he just wrote. I didn't know. I've never organized such a thing. That's when I sat down after praying, and then I started contacting people. Actually, I contacted Brother Theodore because he was closer to Brazak before I came. And then Paul Foka, we tried to discuss. So in the end, by God's grace, we went looking for a hall. We looked for the Red Cross hall, and it was approved. We made everything, and that's how we sent off the BCs. Then the next missionary couple again, the Lekunzes and going to Ghana, and the Jean-Jacques Beng to Congo. Again, he told me to organize. So we did that. I did not have any idea that I was going to go out as a missionary. But I was the one who was in charge of organizing for the send-off of all those couples. Then in 1993, towards the end, I think towards the end of 93, after we sent off the Lekunzes, and Brazak just came one day, told me, Dan, I would like to go to visit some brethren in Namibia. Okay, I said, okay, what does that mean? He said there are some people know have written to him in Namibia. He would want somebody to go there. I started to say, okay, now it means that we must look to get a visa and all the rest. So I went around looking Yaoundé. Unfortunately, there was no embassy for Namibia. So that stopped. Then early 1994, Brazak just came one day again, and he went on, I think he went to, it was in Nigeria, no, he went somewhere, he came back, because eventually the house church that was in our home, in Carrefour, is it Biscuiterio? No, BMC. It was officially known as Brazak's house church, because when he was in town, that's where he fellowshiped, in that house church. So each time he came, even when he went on mission, was coming back, the whole assembly was there. Where Esther Tsafak himself, all those, Adesolo, then the ones, that was the assembly. And the Tala, Dennis, all of them that was the assembly. So he came back, I think it was in the meeting. He just said, Dan, you people are going to go for me to South Africa as missionaries. it didn't sound anything to me. I could not imagine, because in my heart, I was to stay in Yaoundé, to work around Brazak, and to handle the tract ministry. And I put myself in the tract ministry. We had a special night of prayer. My team would go to Mbogada. We used to have an office in the Maison d'Evangile. In Mbogada, we spend the night there doing the things and so on. And I told Brazak, any errands he wanted me to run for him, I was ready to do them. So I didn't. So I said, okay. I went and asked him, what does that mean? He said, just study about the country and know what it is. So I started studying South Africa map. I took the maps. I studied all that could be studied in South Africa. And Then it did not, something happened again. I don't know what. Someday he just came back again and said, no, I think we should go to Nigeria. I was getting confused, so since I'd studied in Nigeria, I knew a lot about Nigeria, but it was still disturbing in my heart. Then in April 1994, just toward the end of April, Brother Zach and Brother Theodore, they went to Lagos. Then from there they went to Abuja. They arrived back here, I think 2nd of May. Immediately Brother Zach came, my wife and I we usually went to his house. We went he was in the bedroom, we went to the bedroom. He was lying down, then he just turned and said, Dan and Solange, God has told me clearly that you people have to go to East Africa, based in Nairobi. Again, but that was again another thing. So I decided to, each time I go to him, brother, I don't understand this thing. You know I want to be here. This is where I want to be, around you. He said, he doesn't know, since God is the one saying it, he cannot change. So eventually he told us to prepare to go to Kenya. And we started preparing, my wife and I. And finally, we were sent off at the end of, on the 11th of December 1994. In fact, the same day with Brother Theodore, we were sent off at the same time. He was going to Nigeria, and we were going to East Africa. So I came to, one of the things I want to say is that Brother Zach was a man, people talk about men of God, but I think he was a man of God. He always waited on God. He didn't take decisions rashly. He was very careful. Even when you came to him and presented a situation, he would always tell you, go and pray. And he took time himself to search before coming to give an answer. So, and his teachings were not just the books. I could say he was a teacher everywhere he went. Even when Brother Zach, you sat down to eat with Brother Zach, there was a teaching. There was something. There was always something to learn. That's why I always moved with my notebook wherever he was. Even when we met at the airport, he was coming from China, if he's coming from India, stops in Nairobi, in transit, even if it's 1 hour, I would be at the airport, and there was always something to write down, because he was a teacher, but he was also a friend. Because in one of the meetings in his house in Etugbe, we had I think it was a 51-day prayer crusade, he announced that he was making me into his friend. And so we became very close. He could have a file of small notes that he always wrote and just tell me, oh, Dan, I love you, do this, do that. And we became very close. He knew how to handle people. One of the things, Brother Zach, was that he didn't tolerate things which are wrong, but he handled them in a way that you will not be angry, bitter. For example, if you did something wrong, Brother Zach, first of all, pulls you close to him in love. When you have gotten close to him, then he rebukes you. He was not that type of person who just rebukes people. You could not just come today in the meeting, he just rebukes you. He first wants to get to show his love towards you, and then when he has gotten love, shown his love, he can rebuke you. Now you understand that somebody is rebuking you out of love, because he wants you to change. Not somebody who rebukes you because he hates you. He was that kind of person who corrected people with an intention for people to grow. But he desired to have people around him and build people in a way that will, I think because he had the vision. Yeah, so briefly that's it. He was a teacher, he was a friend, he was a father, So it's not strange that many people could call him Daddy. It's not just it's something which flows because of his attitude towards people, his fatherly care, his fatherly responsibility. Brother Zach was also a very caring man, very caring. Two incidences. One time, when we were newly married, no, even just before we got married, we were still in courtship. Then, Brother Zach now told, because I depended on him, every step to take. What do we do? He told me what to do. And then we told my fiancée to go to her parents in Douala to make a date so that we could go there. So when she arrived in Douala, she found out that her junior brother, who was also born again, who was working in the United States, was in Douala. So when she called back, Brother Zach thought that was the best time to go because the other members of the family were not born again. So Brother Zach just told me, no, just go. And it was a weekend. That was 29th, I think 29th of December. And but then when I was I planned to go, we planned to go on the 31st. So I told my fiancée to stay there. I was coming on the 31st. And Brother Zach just called me and said, you don't go to your in-laws without money in your pocket. He just went and removed a sum of money and gave me to put him to carry along as I was going. Then it sent a message to Brother Martin Fatele in Douala to form a team. So Brother Martin Fatele himself must be in that team to go to accompany me to see my in-laws. So we went there with late Mama Lidi. Late Mama Lidi was in that team. And others we went, and one Moses, we went to my in-laws. And everything, the same night was done very well. Everything was decided upon. And it was just amazing. That was how caring. The another caring incident was, now when my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, she was teaching lycée technique, I think somewhere there near ENS, the lycée, the girls' lycée. So they were marking exams. 7 p.m. she had not come home. 8 p.m. she had not come home. I drove, I went to the school. When I reached it, they said, no, there's nobody here. The people had closed ever since. I tried to, there were no phones, no telephone mobiles like you have today. That was early 90s. I went to their best solos, told them, because they were my friends, said we should look around what's happening. We went to different places to ask. We didn't see. 11 p.m., my wife had not come home. I knew I was disturbed, so I thought I should go to Brother Zach and tell him.